Most people have a doctor they trust with their life. Michael Jackson had one too. His name was Conrad Murray. And that trust is exactly what killed him. This is not a story about an accident. It is a story about a man who had one job: keep Michael Jackson alive, and chose night after night to do the one thing that guaranteed he wouldn't. By the time it was over, the greatest entertainer who ever lived was gone. And the man responsible served less than 2 years in prison. Conrad Murray did not start as a villain. He was born in 1953 in Grenada, raised in poverty by his grandparents, two farmers with nothing to give but discipline and love. His mother had left for Trinidad in search of better work. He didn't meet his own father until he was 25 years old. Despite all of that, Murray worked his way up. He moved to the United States, earned his medical degree, and eventually became a cardiologist. By 1999, he had opened his own private practice in Las Vegas. By 2006, he had a second clinic in Houston, the Acres Homes Heart and Vascular Institute, serving one of the poorest communities in the city. On paper, Murray looked like a success story, but underneath that story were serious financial problems. By 2009, his mortgage payments had lapsed for months. Unpaid bills were stacking up. His clinics were struggling. Conrad Murray was a doctor in desperate need of money. And then the phone rang. Murray first crossed paths with Michael Jackson in 2006, not in a hospital, not in a professional setting, but through a lucky coincidence in Las Vegas. Jackson's daughter Paris had fallen ill during a family trip, and someone in Jackson's circle knew Murray and called him to treat her. The two men struck up a friendship, and in May 2009, when Jackson was preparing for his massive comeback tour, 50 sold-out concerts at London's O2 Arena under the title "This Is It," he called Murray again. This time, with an offer: $150,000 a month to be his personal physician. Murray was deeply in debt. Murray said yes. He shut down both of his clinics. He let his entire staff go. He uprooted his life and moved in alongside Michael Jackson. The prosecution at his later trial had a word for that decision. They called it greed. What Conrad Murray discovered when he stepped into Michael Jackson's private world was something the public didn't know. Michael Jackson could not sleep. Not occasionally, not now and then. He had not slept naturally in years. The pressure of the comeback tour was crushing him. 50 concerts, massive choreography, the weight of a global comeback on a body that was aging, exhausted, and running on fear. Every night, Michael would lie in bed and his mind would simply refuse to stop. Murray tried sedatives, Valium, lorazepam, midazolam, one after another, in combinations that would have put most people out for hours. Michael would still be awake. And so Jackson asked for something else. He had a name for it. He called it his milk because of its white, milky appearance. Its real name was propofol. Propofol is not a sleeping pill. It is a surgical anesthetic, the kind used to put patients under for operations. It is only ever meant to be used in a hospital, with monitoring equipment, with a trained team standing by. Jackson had been using it to sleep for years on previous tours, administered by other doctors who should have known better. Murray knew exactly what it was. He was a cardiologist. He understood the risks, and he said yes anyway. For 6 weeks, Conrad Murray ran a secret operation inside Michael Jackson's rented mansion in the Holmby Hills neighborhood of Los Angeles. Every night, he set up an IV line in Jackson's bedroom. He hooked Michael up and dripped propofol directly into his bloodstream until the king of pop went under. Not sleep, unconsciousness. There is a difference, and Murray knew it. Real sleep restores the brain. Propofol doesn't. Michael Jackson wasn't sleeping. He was being switched off every night like a light. Murray was already worried. He later told investigators he believed Jackson had developed a dependency on the drug and that he was trying to slowly reduce the doses. But he never stopped, not once, not for 6 weeks. No hospital monitoring equipment, no emergency team on standby, just a doctor, a needle, and a bedroom. An expert who helped write the official dosing guidelines for propofol would later testify at trial that what Murray was doing had never been done to any other human being in recorded medical history. We are in pharmacological never land here, the expert told the court. The night of June 24th, 2009, Michael Jackson had rehearsed late at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. He returned home past midnight, exhausted. Murray began the routine. He gave Jackson Valium, then lorazepam, then midazolam. Each one failed. By 4 o'clock in the morning, Jackson was still awake. "I've got to sleep, Dr. Conrad," he said. "I have these rehearsals to perform." At 10:40 in the morning, after a night of failed attempts, Murray pushed 25 milligrams of propofol into the IV line. Jackson finally went under. Murray then left the room. At some point after that, exactly when remains disputed, Michael Jackson stopped breathing. Murray returned to find his patient unresponsive. What he did next would define the rest of his life and end Michael Jackson's. He did not call 911. Instead, Murray performed CPR on a bed, which absorbs pressure and makes compressions almost useless. Every paramedic knows you perform CPR on a hard floor. While Jackson lay dying, Murray made phone calls. He called a girlfriend. He stayed on the line with her for nearly 6 minutes while his patient had no pulse. And then, before anyone else was allowed into that room, Murray ordered Jackson's bodyguard to gather the propofol vials from the nightstand and stuff them into bags. He was hiding the evidence. The emergency call was not made for at least 20 minutes after Murray realized Jackson was not breathing. When paramedics finally arrived, Murray said nothing about the propofol. Nothing about the 6 weeks of nightly IV anesthesia. The paramedics had no idea what they were dealing with. At 2:26 in the afternoon on June 25th, 2009, Michael Jackson was pronounced dead. He was 50 years old. The official cause of death? Acute propofol intoxication. Ruled a homicide. The world did not yet know what had happened inside that bedroom, but the Los Angeles Police Department did. Conrad Murray was charged with involuntary manslaughter. The trial began in September 2011. For 6 weeks, prosecutors laid out what Murray had done, not as a single mistake, but as a pattern of choices, each one worse than the last. He used a surgical anesthetic as a sleep aid in a private home. He had no monitoring equipment. He left his patient unattended while under anesthesia. He delayed calling for help. He ordered evidence hidden. He lied to paramedics. He lied to emergency room doctors. An expert witness named Dr. Stephen Schaefer, the man who helped write the global guidelines for propofol use, told the jury that Murray had committed not 1, not 2, but 17 separate violations of medical standards. A competent doctor, Schaefer said, would know you do not do this. He called Murray the pop star's obedient employee, not his doctor. Someone who kept saying yes when every medical principle said no. Murray's defense argued that Jackson had injected the fatal dose himself while Murray stepped out of the room. The jury did not believe them. On November 7th, 2011, after 2 days of deliberation, the verdict was delivered. Guilty! Conrad Murray was sentenced to 4 years in prison. He served less than 2. He was released in October 2013, early due to good behavior and prison overcrowding. He immediately tried to reclaim his medical license. He filed to have his Texas license reinstated while still serving his sentence. He gave medical consultations in Florida. He moved abroad, back to the Caribbean, and eventually reopened a practice. In 2018, he published a memoir. He titled it, "This Is It." He called himself a victim. The Jackson family filed a separate lawsuit against AEG Live, the concert promoter, arguing they had hired Murray without conducting any background check and without ever seeing his financial records. Records that would have shown a man deep in debt, vulnerable to exactly the kind of influence that money creates. AEG Live had no contract with Murray. He was never officially paid a single dollar for the work that killed Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was weeks away from the greatest comeback in music history. 50 concerts, a rehearsal footage film, a return to the stage that would have reminded the world why he mattered. All of it gone. But beyond the concerts, beyond the music, beyond the records and the legacy, a father was taken from 3 children. Prince, Paris, and Blanket lost their father because a doctor chose a paycheck over his patient. The saddest testimony of the entire trial wasn't from an expert witness or a bodyguard. It came from Murray himself, in a police interview recorded just 2 days after Jackson died. Detectives asked him about the propofol, about the nightly IV, about the bedroom, about leaving the room. And Murray said simply, "I don't know what killed Michael Jackson. I want to know also." He was a cardiologist. He knew exactly what killed Michael Jackson. He had administered it every night for 6 weeks. Some people make mistakes. Conrad Murray made choices. And the difference between those two things is the difference between an accident and a crime. Michael Jackson survived his difficult father. He survived the pressure of childhood fame. He survived the trials, the scandals, the years of public cruelty. He did not survive the one man who was supposed to protect him. If you want to know the full story of Michael Jackson's life, from Motown to Thriller to the final years, watch our next video. Subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you there.